It's my absolute pleasure to welcome today Dee-Ann Seccombe, founder and managing director of Down Under Enterprise, a leader in Australian native oil. Dee-Ann, welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to have the conversation.
So before we start, would you mind just probably introducing yourself and also Down Under Enterprise so that our listeners have a bit more background on what you are doing?
Sure. As you said, I'm Dee-Ann Seccombe. I started Down Under Enterprises in 2001, and we specialise in native Australian essential oils and botanical ingredients. We have two aspects of our business. We're farmers of native Australian botanicals. Primarily tea tree oil. We produce about 35 tonnes of tea tree oil a year, but we have other botanicals. And then we also, the other aspect of our business is that we help other Australian farmers who love what they do and love producing essential oils, but don't love the other aspects of the business, which includes marketing and sales and documentation. So that is what Down Under and our farms do.
Yes, and we'll touch on those different aspects probably later on. But personally, you had already some strong ties to tea tree plantation with your family.
Yes.
So, how did this background influence you throughout your career?
Yes, that's right. So my parents started growing tea tree oil back in the 1990s. But my family in general have always been farmers. I'm actually a sixth generation farmer, but it was my parents who started the tea tree farming in the late 1990s. And then my brother started into tea tree farming as well. Mm-hmm. And in the late 1990s, 2000, the tea tree market went into surplus, and my parents needed some help with selling their tea tree. At the same time, I had a child, my first child, Elizabeth, and I said, well, I'll help you out for 6 months just to get some money in the door and to help things. I fell in love with the industry, and here I am 25 years later, still doing essential oils, but continuing to love what I do.
Yeah, I think for anyone who had the pleasure to meet you, it's really your passion for the topic is really something very communicative that we can feel. And what really struck me and the reason why we're talking today is also that passion to connect people and to support the local community. So yeah. Like you in the
Thank you. Yeah, and it's I love talking to customers. I love understanding their businesses and understanding their needs and how the products can help them with their brand or their business in general. But I love just as much working with the farmers and helping them come to market with their products. And also I do a lot of work on a community basis, either through the Australian Tea Tree Industry Association and working with those growers. But also there's another association in Australia for everything that's not tea tree oil called the Essential Oil Producers Association of Australia. And I've been working on that, effectively the board, for as long as I can remember. So I really love helping the community of farmers really as much as I do, helping the brands put our ingredients into products and going to market with them.
I think that's something we have in common also, that passion to have a diversity also of stakeholders. So you have the farmers that you're supporting on the ground, you see them grow and develop, but probably also the thrill of meeting customers all around the world to then share your passion and understand how this can be used in the finished good.
Totally. I mean, there's nothing I love more than going out to the farms and seeing the farms. I mean, these are people that are so passionate about what they're growing, and the trials and tribulations of farming, they're enormous. I mean, you are so dependent on the weather, and then you finally get your oil into a container, and then you've got to get it out into the market. And along the way, a lot of these nearly all these native Australian essential oils, they're unique and they're not known. And there's an education process that has to happen so that people understand why should they be using these oils and how is it going to benefit and how are their buyers, their consumers going to take an interest in these products. So it's a really interesting. And the thing that thrills me the most is when I go into a different country, like, I was in Denmark, and you go into the shelves and you see your oil in a product on the shelves. And that is thrilling.
I mean, like I mentioned, we will be running like a campaign early 26 on all the regenerative beauty and also that impact on the ground and so on. Which is super important to really look at ingredients beyond their impact and their properties in the finished formulation, but also see that impact on the environment and local growth. And what we saw, like as we were prepping that campaign, was also how company like yours have a role to play into the brand story of the finished good. Right? So that this ties to the ground, and this is something that consumers are more and more receptive to. But it needs to be authentic, and I think that's a lot of people identify the trend and they want to play on it. But when you try to dig deeper, you see that it's not something that is really ingrained in their way of doing business. It's not something that is really reflected in this end-to-end journey from raw material to finished good. And
I think that was something that with the project that Covalo is doing with the B Corp Beauty Coalition on the traceability of ingredients, what really interested me, I have to say quite shocked me, is how there's such a demand from brands, particularly brands like B Corp brands, to understand that source and the traceability and have all of the information that they need on their ingredients, but how they can't get to the level of knowledge of those ingredients that they so desperately want to seek, because either they have a product where they're working through an intermediary who may or may not know the information or who may or may not want to share that information. So there's a huge demand for the ingredient story and how that is impacting the planet and all the things that you're doing to try to minimize or actually give back to the planet as well.
I mean, this is really a big challenge for us because on the one hand side, we need to standardize the way we present ingredients to make it easier to find and compare. On the other side, when you standardize, you cannot always cover these elements really properly. And that's why we ended up intensifying our marketing activities to say, okay, there is on the one hand side, the more standardized search engine, but then on the other side, still need to educate people to share the stories behind the ingredient, behind projects, so that people can also have the awareness needed to then have them look for those ingredients on the platform.
Yes, exactly. And it's that standardization that's actually very helpful because we have, there are 10 people at Down Under, and one of those people is totally dedicated to documentation, quality documentation. And we get a lot of requests for information that is effectively the same, but in a different format or with a couple of different questions. So it would actually be very efficient, as you say, to have that standardization, knowing that some people do need slightly different information, but standardization is helpful on both ends for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's a role we try to place this a form of a translator system in the way suppliers want to present their product, and we don't want to change this. And then the way the brands need to ingest it for different purposes, because the marketing purpose, the regulatory, the homologation of ingredients, all these different process require different information in different formats. And so to ensure that the right data can be used in the right place, in the right format, and be maintained up to date.
Yes.
that's not the sexiest problem, but it's a big one that we are trying to tackle.
Yeah, it's important.
So yeah, without going too deep in those on those data flows, you did not always work in agriculture and everything. Huh? So you also studied your career in finance. What was it like being like the sixth generation of farmers? What was it that appealed to you in the finance world?
It's funny, you look back on your journey in life, and back when I was 17, I just couldn't wait to get away from farming. I couldn't wait to get away from the country town. I went running down to Sydney to do my economics degree. I did a master's of finance and went overseas, went backpacking for a year to my parents' horror because I was offered a very good job in a multinational, but I decided to go backpacking. Came back, I had absolutely no money, found an administrative job that was going to get me money in the door. It happened to be in the best bank in Australia, Macquarie Bank. And somebody helped me transition into a trading position. I was actually the managing director at the time, was very supportive, Alan Moss, who's a brilliant businessman. Started getting into the trading and the finance, absolutely loved it. It was a fun, fast-moving world that I didn't know as a farming person, and loved it. Did that for 10 years, and then we moved overseas to the US, into Minneapolis for 5 years, Cleveland, Ohio for 5 years. Loved living in the States. Did management consulting for some period, a couple of years. And then, as I said, mum and dad needed help, had the child, and then got into the essential oil industry. And I just remember at that time going into Expo West, so massive trade show, as you would be very well aware in the States. And there were literally men with long beards, women with long flowy skirts. And I was like, wow, this is a different environment. And these people want to make the world a better place. So I went from the flip side of very fun, fast-packed money. It was all about money generation, how much money you can make, to people wanting to use essential oils because they're better for the body, better for you, better for businesses, better for the world. And like I said, I thought I would do it for such a short period, but really fell in love with the industry and the people and the mentality and the drive and the strive. So that was really my journey. Looking back now, I come from one of the most beautiful parts of Australia. It's a part called Lismore. We have the best beaches, I think, in the world close to us, and that's where my farm is now. We bought back where my family. Growing up, Dad would always say the best farming land in the area is in an area called McKees Hill. That's where we bought our farm. And it's beautiful. So I spend as much time as I can up there. I still love Sydney and I still choose to live in Sydney, but I love that area as well.
I think in our last call, you were on your way there. And I definitely added a field trip to Australia now.
It is so beautiful as we have visitors often down to the farm, and you can see their whole being, their core, goes into some sense of relaxation, and to actually see the tea trees growing in the field and hearing the kookaburras and hearing the Australian birds and hopefully looking for that koala in our koala corridor. It is a substantial moment in people's lives, which I really love, because you can feel how much they can actually see that what they're buying and where it's coming from is very impactful.
I mean, I also had a short stint on the trading floor and also in strategy consulting, and I can see the appeal from the intellectual perspective, right? Things go quickly, you have challenges, you crunch numbers, but something like once you go to a real business, you realize that a lot of people, especially on the trading floor, you see all those numbers moving, and people have the feeling they understand the world. But they just understand the numbers and not what is behind them.
Yes.
And I feel like when you go from this fast-paced environment to the outback in Australia, and you drive for hours and hours, and you just take the measure of time. You put things in perspective in a different way. And I think once you do this step into the real world, if we can call it that way, it's quite difficult to go back.
Oh, very, very much so. It's like I should say, the real world is unfortunately like when we had the two massive floods in Australia in 2022, going to a pizza catch up with farmers who have been farming tea tree for decades, and their farms were devastated. They lost their farms. I mean, that's the real world, the emotion of people putting their heart and soul into a family business or their farm and things not going well, or alternatively, massive winds from they get a great harvest and the oil's coming off and the sun's shining. So that to me is what really matters, is taking the production and getting it out.
I mean, we talk about our joint passion for wine. And,
yes.
And I think that's something that's one of the things I love so much about it is it's really this. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Is the one inside people tend to be extremely humble, working the land, being extremely hardworking, always be attuned to nature. There is a sense of mastery of developing a product that is really excellent from the farming and also the processing. There is a lot of resilience because sometimes you have a great harvest and then sometimes you have all your work goes to trash because of hail or because of a disaster, flood, and so on. And then in the case of the wine, then you have the aging, and you probably need to wait 10 years all in all to see your work in its best form. And I think that, again, like when we, in a very fast-paced environment and world, so see people dedicated to what they do on decades, because you need to plant the trees, you need to grow them, you do the harvest, you need to, the feedback loop is much longer than anywhere else. I find it very, very humbling and nice.
It is. It's very real. It's real people, real emotions. So yes, it is humbling. It is very humbling because at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to weather, which you can't control. So when you ask a farmer about the weather, they're really asking, and you're really having a conversation about the weather. That's the real world.
And so, what kept you going over the last 25 years? So you started with this idea of 6 months, and now really burning for the topic. Like, what are experiences or milestones that also reinforce that commitment to what you do today?
I think the drivers have changed over time, and sometimes I admire people. I always admire people who knew what they wanted to do and went out to do it, and they had a great product or they had a great business idea. And I honestly can't say that that's where I started. It was really just to help my parents, and then I knew that was the right place, right time, particularly in the US, 25 years ago when tea tree was starting to build up. So I got my parents stable, and then I decided this is actually a really nice place to be. So then I had to focus on getting my business stable. But once we came through that, and it took 5 years until we were really comfortably stable, that everything was working and financially we were good. We had a good story, a good brand. And then it became about helping my brother, who has become the biggest, one of the biggest growers of tea tree oil in Australia. And then it was about getting involved in ADIA and EOPA and started employing people, and it's just started building, and it's taken a very organic but a very rewarding pathway to now I've had customers that I've been working with for 20 years, actually, a very strong brand of very long-term customers. And I absolutely love going and seeing them. I love the interaction. at the moment, I'm running around Europe having the most wonderful conversations with the most interesting people. So I think, to me, it's been a pathway of enjoying helping people and having a really good time along the way.
And I think you bring this very unique mix of business acumen with also the finance background with then the link to farming. You were mentioning that this is not the case of many farmers that probably they want to do their core, what they craft, but you have more and more distraction, if we may call them like this, with all the regulatory requirements, the marketing, the promotion, and so on. How exactly are you supporting them on those kind of course?
Yes, and it's a really good point too, because the growers in general are very passionate people about the product that they're growing and they're producing. So that's what they're passionate about. They tend not to be passionate about regulation, who is, but they tend not to like the sales and marketing, and they really hate documentation. I mean, it takes them away from what they love doing. And as we were saying earlier, so many people need so many different types of documentation. I mean, you have your standard documentation, but then you have all of the needed documentation. They don't want to do that in general. I mean, I would say 99.9% of them do not want to do that. Whereas down under, has the infrastructure. So it makes sense that we leverage our infrastructure and do that for them. And it allows them to do what they do best and what they love doing. I just happen to love sales and marketing, documentation, not so much, but that's why I've got someone to do that for us. So it makes sense that we're able to do the things that they don't so much like to do and can talk to customers and find out what they need and then help them with what they need.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And you have economies of scale when you mutualize efforts that make a lot of sense. And if everyone would do the same, the resources required would just be multiplied by quite a bit. But that's something that sometimes buyers don't always appreciate, right? They want to buy directly from the grower because they feel that's the best way to support them, to also have cut the middleman. That's not always having the impact intended, right?
Exactly. And the intentions of those buyers are very noble, that they do want to help directly. But I know that's why Down Under has that traceability aspect as well, because we don't have a problem in general introducing the growers, taking people out to the farms, because we're not hiding anything. We're just doing what we do best and allowing the growers to do what they do best. And it still gives the brands or the buyers the knowledge that they are helping those growers. It's genuinely helping those growers. So that's what we really try to do. I mean, I say that, and we just recently took a company out to a couple of growers. I flew around Australia with them to the sandalwood growers and our own farm. And unfortunately, at the end of that trip, that buyer tried to contact the grower directly. So rather than working with Down Under, even though we'd made the introduction, we'd taken them around Australia. So we have to be aware, and we're looking for partners. We're looking for partners in brands and buyers, and we're looking for partners in the growers, because it has to be an ecosystem where it's sustainable from a business perspective and you have longevity. And that's where I think we're very keen to make sure that we have what we call is our ideal customer profile, where people genuinely want quality, they genuinely want natural, and they're after long-term relationships where we have a system and a community of support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also when you look at the sheer size of Australia and the diversity of oil and trees and everything you can have, you also bring that knowledge and understanding about what Australia has to offer. And when we are looking at the brands today, more and more of our customers are looking to find partners that can help them fulfill more than one need. So of course you could go to every single farmers and every single companies independently, but then the logistic and everything around, like the take-on process from a new vendor, or the vetting process and so on, is taking a lot of time. And I hope that at least a big majority of the brands understand also the value of having orchestrators like you that support on mutualizing all the effort on the marketing and sales and the promotional side, going around the world promoting, being like a true ambassador of the farmers and growers, but also then being that single point of contact to then be able to fulfill more than one need.
Yes, and you've got a very good point, because it's the knowledge of the different oils, because all of the oils do something different. And then as projects change, you would recommend different oils based on those different projects and those different needs. And so if you have, what we like to do is, we're experts on the Australian essential oils, and we only do Australian essential oils and New Zealand because we either grow them, we know the growers, and we have a finite portfolio of maybe 30 different products, because we can be experts in those and then recommend the different oils based on the needs of the brand, and they will change per their project and their other needs that they have.
I think, like you mentioned earlier, the B Corp coalition, like one of the only ingredient suppliers in the coalition. How did you get part of the B Corp community, and how do you need to adapt or adjust the way of doing business to be part of such a coalition?
Yeah, the B Corp was interesting because what was frustrating for me as a business owner is I would go to trade shows and I'd say, we're traceable, sustainable, excellent quality. And then I would hear other people saying exactly the same thing. And I was like, my goodness, if I'm a buyer, how do they know? Everybody's saying exactly the same thing. So the first thing we did is we went out and got EcoVadis, and we've been EcoVadis Platinum for the last 4 or 5 years now. So we're very proud of that. And then as we were talking to more and more brands, B Corp was obviously a big movement to more allow the consumers to know the values of the business. So we have naturally B Corp values where we put people and the planet on the same level as profit. So we decided to get the B Corp certification, because not that we're a B2C, because we're only B2B, but because when we go to other businesses and we say that we're a B Corp, that instantly tells them what the values of the business is. So there are other certifications that we could do, ingredient certifications, which may actually be better from an ingredient supplier perspective. But I really value the B Corp core values. And then the B Corp Beauty Coalition, I came across them. I thought, wow, this is a coalition of effectively competitors to some varying extents that once again are banding together to make the world a better place, to put their own primary needs as a business aside so that they can share information and leverage to be a communicator and a sharer and implement those values at a broader and an amplified level on the world stage. So I got involved. I'm on the steering committee, which I've been loving, just loving the people I'm meeting, but loving also hearing their challenges as brands and what they're going through. Because, as a just a curious individual, I'm always interested in understanding the challenges other people have and to some extent, if possibly possible, that, helping them with those challenges.
I think when you realize you're also not alone in this situation, it also brings a bit of comfort.
Yes.
And I think like the B Corp coalition is really, like the tide will lift all boats, right? So
Yes.
before trying to fight for market share of a smaller market, focusing on making that conscious business and bringing those values at the core of the purchasing behavior and
Yes.
growing the market first, I think that's totally the right approach to have.
Yes, exactly.
So we are slowly running out of time, but could you tell us a bit more about what you have in store for Down Under for the future? So you had an incredible journey over the last 25 years. There are new challenges coming up all the time. The pace of change is accelerating. You have also climate change must impact growth quite a bit. How do you look at the future and how do you position yourself in that environment?
Yeah, we've always been about traceable, sustainable Australian botanicals. So that is our core, will always be our core. What we have in our future is, how do we allow people to find us? Because it's not so much about us going out and finding people. We have a great story, a great product, a great farm, great essential oils. There's an enormous world out there across, Asia, Europe, Australia, North America. There's a lot of people who want what we have. So it's working on our website, SEO, using AI to put our story out there to allow people to find us. And then once we have that conversation started, we have a very high chance of success in helping them and working with them. So to me, it's all about technology at the moment and amplifying our message and allowing people to find us.
And how can we help you in this?
You are. Covalo is doing a great job. So you are helping us. Yes, thank you for asking that question. So I think for example, with using your platform, getting our own website, getting our SEO together, we've got 2 amazing salespeople in North America. I'm doing the rest of the world. They're helping me do the rest of the world. We've got an amazing team behind me. We're getting there. And it's really is about enjoying the journey, loving meeting people, getting the conversation started.
Okay. So as always, if you have any feedback on how we can better convey the stories like yours on a digital platform like ours, or how we can support or ideas of campaign, please always let us know. And for anyone in the audience that is listening, also if you have any feedback, let us know. I like to finish these interviews with a very simple question, but you have a wealth of experience. You went through a different career path, and then you made that step into entrepreneurship like more than 25 years ago. What do you have to say to people that are considering launching their own business, but probably having some doubts or a bit scared of what it represents?
I think you have to think very carefully about it, because there are a lot of risks, but there's a lot of rewards as well. So when you start out, make sure you do a business plan. It sounds really boring, but it's absolutely critical, because when you put your thoughts on paper, that's when it becomes clear what you're offering and what you're missing. Make sure that you have something unique about what you're offering, and you're very clear about what that is, what your point of differentiation is, and work out the best way to simplify that message and get that message across, but make that very clear. There's also a tendency, you get so excited about what you're doing and what you can offer. Be careful that you're not sticking your fingers in too many pies. Just be very clear about what you're offering and do not deviate too far from that key point of differentiation.
I mean, that last one resonates quite a bit, because I think especially if you are passionate and a curious mind, you will see opportunities in many, many places.
Yes.
And sometimes before you launch yourself in a project, that probably prevents you to get started somewhere because you don't know what battle to or what opportunity to pick. And then later on also to not scattering your effort too much is also the best way to really being known for something. And if you do too many things, although they might be valuable, it dilutes your brand awareness or like what you get known for.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And you were mentioning the amazing team you have, so I guess this is also like surrounding yourself with the right people from the start is also quite key. How did you meet your first employees?
My very first employee was my mother. She
Your
did
mother.
my bookkeeping for me. She was wonderful until she retired. And then we've been picking up different people. And the last two employees actually came through because they knew we were a B Corp, and that was the value, the company values that they were seeking. So once again, that messaging, the B Corp messaging, really helped find us people that had the same values as we have. And we've got a very stable, very wonderful, well-trained, just seriously nice people that are really good at their job. So I'm very, very lucky.
And you should be proud of it. I mean, it's people love to join successful companies, but I think it's people with aligned values that will stick around when it's getting tough and will get you out of it. So
yes, exactly.
Dee-Ann, thank you so much. Enjoy your time in Europe, and hope to see you very soon on one of the fairs. I don't know what is the next event we can meet you at.
Yes, exactly. We bump into each other a lot. I'm looking forward to bumping into you next time. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really do appreciate it. It's been lovely to chat.